when the glorious 4th was a rip snorter. Joe Hartley, the 90-year-old apostle of Grandfather Mountain, remembers when the glorious 4th was celebrated in rip snorting fashion in these parts. Back when I was a young fellow, he recalled, we had some 4th of July get-togethers that made the ones nowadays look like a Sunday school picnic and it a-raining. This was primitive country then. A land of saddlebags and ox teams and wagon roads where folks took their jollification in a whole swarm of bees, corn shuckings, quiltings, bean stringings, and house raisins. The 4th of July was the only holiday observed in these parts with any sort of organized community jollification, which wasn't much. Folks just gathered and worked out their fun on the spot. It wasn't until the Linville Company started to develop a summer resort here that the occasion took on any real organized pattern. I never will forget the 4th of July celebration we had here in 1892. Eola Inn had just been opened and there was a slew of high-class folks, some of the wealthiest in the United States, staying there. Thomas F. Parker, who then was president of the Linville Company, organized the affair. He figured it would be something to entertain his guests, which included Charles Dudley Warner, the distinguished author, Talcott Williams of the Philadelphia Press, and E.G. Rathbone, 4th Assistant Postmaster General of the United States. Parker had handbills printed advertising the celebration, which was to include an ox race and a sack race, all to be performed by the natives around Grandfather Mountain. Lured by the prospect of winning a handsome prize in the form of a handful of silver dollars, the men and boys hereabouts started training weeks in advance for the races. One boy stole his mother's soap and lathered his father's old sow to practice on. Harrison Calloway and Will Berry took the Calloway oxen, laid them off a lane at Linville Gap, and went into training for the ox race. Others did the same, including my brother Roy. I left the ox racing to the others and practiced up for the barrel race. Come the morning of the 4th, and such a crowd as the county had never seen was gathered there. Folks had come in from miles around, come in by foot and by wagon and buggy and sled. I reckon there was more than 1,000 folks, not counting the ones at the inn. Just across what is now the highway in front of the hotel was the racetrack that day. The folks at the inn crowded onto their porches in their finery and settled in for the races. There's never been anything like that ox race. I reckon there was a dozen or so young fellas that lined up on their oxen at the starting place, and when the white handkerchief was dropped, they set out in the wildest confusion you ever saw. They were mean, wild oxen, and they leaped and bucked and kicked up their heels as the young fellows applied the switch. In no time at all, there was busted saddles and riders rolling in the dust. Some of the fellows went flying through the air like they was shot out of a gun. Oh, it was a sight to see. My brother Roy got bucked off and thrown in a thicket. He went one way and his ox the other. When Roy come walking back in, a-limping and his nose a-bleeding, somebody asked him what happened to his ox, and he said, I reckon it had gone to hell. Harrison Calloway played a trick on some of the other fellows in the race by getting his girlfriend to put chestnut burrs under the oxen's tail, which caused the oxen to go wild and then stop dead still. Harrison won the race, and I reckon there would have been some fist flying if the guests at the hotel hadn't made up a purse and awarded the other ox riders as well. After the ox race, there was the barrel race. Don't know if you ever saw a barrel race. I don't know who thought it up, but it was a humdinger. They took a dozen big barrels, open at both ends, and put them on their side about 25 or 50 yards apart over a course that wound about the town. Each fellow was given 3 eggs. To win, you had to outrun everybody, racing from barrel to the next, crawling through the barrel without breaking the eggs. I was pretty fleet of foot, and I figured I was going to come off with that prize. In a foot race, nobody had ever beaten me. Well, I got off from the starting line ahead of the others and managed to get through 3 barrels before trouble caught up with me. Somebody had driven some nails into one of the barrels, and the first thing I knew, the nails grabbed my shirt, and there I was, flat on my face with my hands full of broken eggs. Dave Stover, a waiter at the end who was slim as a fence rail and had hands big as hams, won the barrel race. Just about all the men and boys got in the hog race. They had caught a wild hog and greased it with lard. It was a wild one if there ever was one. When the time come to turn it loose, there was about 300 of us gathered around in a big circle. We were pushing and jostling each other for position when the judge opened the pen and let the pig loose. That hog was like lightning, greased lightning. It was all over the place, and so were we fellows. Pretty soon the hog broke out of the circle of milling men and boys and headed toward the woods with all of us in pursuit. Unbeknown to the rest of us, Harrison Calloway had sanded his hands, coated them good and heavy. He laid back in the beginning, which none of us realized until it was all over, and let us run that hog till it was tired out. I run it for 3 miles, and had my hands on it a dozen times, but couldn't hold it. Well, right at the last, when I thought the hog was going to fall in its tracks and I could get it, here come Harrison, and he latched onto it, and it was all over. It was some 4th of July. Besides the races, there was a big picnic dinner and a speech making, a heap of whooping and hollering and nipping of the jug. The late Shepherd M. Duggar, who wrote a couple of books about the Linville country, was the speaker that day, and his subject was wild oxen, wild hogs, and tame men. The old man paused and shook his head. "Folks," he said, "just don't celebrate the 4th of July anymore like we did when I was a young fellow." I hope you enjoyed that. What a great story. Don't you wish you could have been there to see all the festivities? That was the piece I read, was When the Glorious Fourth Was a Rip Snorter, and that was written by John Paris, and that was from his book These Storied Mountains. I'm not sure what my favorite part is. That Harrison Calloway, he was very sneaky, wasn't he? So I can't believe this part. Played a trick on some of the other fellows in the race by getting his girlfriend to put chestnut burrs under the oxen tails. Can you just imagine, if you've ever seen a chestnut burr, that's going to be painful, very painful. And then Harrison went on, he cheated, but he went on to win both races, the hog race and the oxen race. It's just a great story. Nothing like the 4th of July that I've had. We've had a lot of fun, though. Yesterday we played music for the festival in Murphy, North Carolina. That was great. Seen a lot of old friends and lots of people there, lots of vendors and different things going on. Murphy really did a great job with it. After that, we went up to Lake Chatuge in Clay County to spend some time with Matt's aunt and uncle, Sam and Wanda. They were here visiting. They have a place up there, so we went up there and enjoyed spending time with them and got to see some beautiful fireworks. Mostly the best part was, though, fellowshipping one with another with Matt's family and eating good. Of course, we ate good. The gentleman in the story is right. It's not so much a rip snorting 4th of July like he was experienced in the late 1800s. So there was no oxen races that I knew about yesterday. Nobody greasing a pig to chase, those kind of things. But 4th of July is very much celebrated in my part of Appalachia. Southern Appalachia is a very patriotic area, as is most of Appalachia. So it's a holiday that people pay attention to. They're thankful for their country. I'm thankful for my country. I was raised like that. You'll see a lot of fireworks. Last night, when we were watching fireworks, they were going off all around us. I was facing the direction of the main show, but in other directions, there was also people doing smaller fireworks shows. On the way home, traveling home last night, Matt and I saw fireworks along the way, so that's a really big thing. People like to shoot off fireworks. People like to eat big on 4th of July. Just about any holiday in Appalachia, you're going to eat big. Maybe you'll have hamburgers and hot dogs grilled out, or maybe you'll roast a whole hog. But that's a very common thing. This time of the year, you see, like I said, people are very patriotic. You'll see a lot of flags not just on flagpoles or off somebody's porch, but even draped on things, like the little banners that are like, they're not actually flags, but they're red, white, and blue. People will put those out. So you'll start to notice those. A lot of people go all out decorating for 4th of July. So all of us here at Celebrating Appalachia, we hope you've had a wonderful Independence Day. I hope you enjoyed the story from John Paris. Hope it gave you a smile. And as always, I hope you'll keep dropping back by as we celebrate Appalachia.